It's time for Inside the L, the podcast covering all things LaSalle athletics and taking you behind the scenes. And now, here's your host, Ed LeFurge.
Welcome back to Inside the L, the podcast, episode 3, brought to you by our sponsors and good friends at Campus Close. Make sure you guys tune in, subscribe, and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Give us a follow on Spotify and subscribe on YouTube by searching LaSalle Athletics on all 3 platforms. Like our friend Kevin Casey said in the intro, I'm your host, Ed LeFurge. We've got a really exciting episode for you this go around. We're going to have Paul Royal, who's the head coach of our women's soccer program, entering his 19th season at the helm of that program. Certainly quite a bit of success, multiple Atlantic 10 championships, opportunities to play in the NCAA tournament. So we'll hear from Paul, as well as our head lacrosse coach, who's entering her 3rd season. That's Katie Rhodes Abbott. And then on our Alumni Spotlight, a familiar face to those in the athletic department, Mr. Rob Mcintosh, who's a former LaSalle football player and 2003 graduate. He spent the last 18 years working in the athletics and recreation department and currently serves as the director of campus recreation. We're going to kick things off right away with Mr. Paul Royal. Paul, thanks so much for giving us some time.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Ed. I think this is great for, the coaches and obviously Rob, and hello, Explore Nation. I think it's a great opportunity for all of us to kind of kill some time, get through these things and maybe be enlightened.
Yeah. So first and foremost, before we really we jump into the nitty gritty, Paul, how are you? How's your family? How's the last kind of 7 months been for you guys?
Yeah, all was good. We have a daughter that's a sophomore in high school. So that transition is always difficult. The best thing is she goes to a Catholic high school, Camden Catholic. And I think it's helpful for, they're basically in school 3 weeks, 1 week off. At home. So that's helped us a lot. Our younger one is a middle schooler and, she's at home full time doing remote learning. So it's been good. It's a challenge. My wife is, in the real thick of, a big project that they're launching with Comcast and, that posed some challenge, but we have a lot of help, within our community and otherwise it's been good. There's no complaints really. Like I said earlier, when you and I were discussing getting ready for something like this is, you really, in these times, you got to kind of roll with it and see the bright side of it. It's very easy to, point fingers at how bad this year's been or how all these things that are going wrong. We got to be blessed that we're where we are and, staying safe and healthy. And I think that's a real big part of it is just having that type of stable outlook.
Certainly. You guys, obviously we're getting ready to start your spring season when all this kind of went down. How have you and your staff kind of handled things with the team and kind of keeping them in the loop and positive throughout, the last 7 months?
Well, I think, it was pretty wild. I remember having our last meeting with the team and, everything was still very uncertain at that time. And we're like, all right, well, it looks like everybody's going to be, sent home and, we'll link up hopefully maybe by the end of the semester. Little did I know it would maybe be the end of the fall semester instead of the spring semester. But, I admire our young women. They seem to be so resilient and just kind of going with the flow. It's definitely posed a lot of challenges, from even a learning aspect. I think one of the big things that I've said, to some fellow coaches is, when our athletes, everybody knows they're high achievers, they're successful in everything they're doing. But I learned quickly, there's your self-discipline athletes that basically take ownership. And, we have a few of those that are, up at 5 or 6 in the morning, getting a workout in, getting their school day started. And then we have the committed kids that when we demand a lot from them, they're going to step up and do absolutely everything that we ask and more. And, I never thought there was much of a difference between the two until, we had to really really get involved deeply with a lot of the players that, needed some extra motivation, some extra inspiration on staying on task. And we've always been a program that has, held high standards and held our players accountable for, those type of standards. That's been, I think, the changeover with seeing the success. The girls have maintained, I think we had a 3.79 GPA last semester, which is absolutely tremendous. I think since we've been here, we're probably about a 3.5. So, having maybe the freedom of being home and the security of being home, it offered, some real strong insight for them to, get the grades that they needed to and keep their focus on task. Because I know it's incredibly demanding, even from the freshman perspective. They're not being thrown into a preseason and traveling and playing games and doing all these things that are, what would make a week look like there's not even enough days in it to get through. This transition, I think, is really going to help them in a longer term. It really will. But I'm incredibly pleased because we have tremendous leaders. Our three captains, Ashley Pine, Jenna Soriano, and obviously our fifth-year player, Taylor Newhart. They have been rocks for the team. I think their communication, their compassionate personalities of, being so inviting to our newcomers and such has really stabilized our group. And that gives us a lot of comfort as coaches too, where, we don't have to check in with every single person, every single minute of every day. That we have a lot of leaders that are really in tune and giving us some updates here and there about what's needed and where we can step in and help.
We'll jump into academics a little bit later on and the freshman class you got coming in, but I really want to delve immediately into the postponement of fall sports to the spring semester. And certainly it's not what anybody wanted and what anybody was hoping for, but that's what happened to ensure safety and whatnot. How difficult of a conversation was that for you to have with the team, and how did the team take the news?
I think first off, I think we have to, really respect the decisions from, our experts, across the nation. And, then the Atlantic 10, was very courageous in doing what they did.
Sure.
And then it shows that, our administration with President Hanich and Brian Baptiste, that they were willing to do some unpopular things that that weren't going to be always the best things that people wanted, our student athletes. But that's the mechanism that we talk a lot about is, can we be able to, kind of maneuver these issues that, maybe we don't like how they're going. And I think our team has done a tremendous job with that. It was really hard for them to, really grasp it at first, just because of the realities. And at the time, I think we might've been the third or fourth conference that made that move. So, at first it was, maybe deemed in their minds, maybe unfair. But that's where, our communication as leaders is so important, and not just us as coaches, but our captains and our leadership group. And even from our top, the communication that was sent out to them is, you don't always have to agree with it, but you have to understand, the rationale and the importance of why this is occurring, because of the safety and the well-being of our student athletes. That's the highest priority all of us have. We want to afford them these great experiences. So we try to provide that environment for them. But, looking back, it was difficult. We do a lot of our meetings like that through Zoom, which is crazy now. It's become such a norm.
Sure.
It definitely has been part of our, daily ritual. But, you feel bad for, at the time, there was no extra year of eligibility that was attached to it. There was uncertainty of how many games we would play or what we would play in the spring. We're still incredibly optimistic that it's going to, go through and we'll have a spring season. But that was one of the things I wanted to make sure that these seniors really had a great experience from this, whether it ends in a championship or not, the collective experience of this journey that they're going to have from, September until next May, we want to make sure that that's the best.
And, you've got some kids back on campus now, and members of the team are working out together in kind of organized team activities. What was the process like to get where we are today, right? Like, it didn't just start with, hey, August, September rolls around, we're on campus, we're working out. You guys just got back and just started working out on campus the beginning of October. So kind of walk us through what that process looked like who was allowed to work out, how were the decision made?
Well, I think a big shout out goes to, our administration for, really being in tune with every single aspect of this trail, of everything was changing, whether it was daily or week to week. Nina from our sports training area, she was a rock star getting everything organized. Zach, from our facilities, and those people, really stepped up. Our strength coaches, Scott and Jay, and Whit, that everybody was putting these plans together for, let's say, August 15th or whatever it may have been. And then, all right, we're transitioning. We would have hours of meetings regarding, what are we going to do in the middle of August? What are we going to do at the end of August? And things just kept getting pushed back. So, a lot of respect and admiration goes to that crew, because I can't imagine what it's like putting, probably weeks of work together and to just completely pivot again and move to the next thing. But they stayed on task. They really, the communication, they stayed on point with us as coaches. And that took away a lot of issues, because now we could properly communicate to our players exactly what was going on, and that doesn't always happen. You have all these moving parts. A lot of times, things get lost in the shuffle. And as hard as it is to keep pushing things back and things like that, it wasn't such a big deal for us, because we weren't the ones, establishing everything that this is the way it's going to be, and then have to completely shift again. We were just kind of moving with what information they gave us. But again, I thought Nina and Zach and their staff did a tremendous job, really communicating, put these plans together.
How have workouts been going so far with the team?
It's been awesome. Yeah, it's just, even for us, it was incredibly hard as a coach. I can speak for myself, and I know I can speak for all the other coaches at LaSalle. The world that we want to live in every day is on the field or on the court or in the pool, whatever it is. And we were missing that as well. The last time I was running a session, was March, and, we get a lot of our energy and a lot of our enthusiasm and passion that we do, which, gives us a better mental outlook, in our day to day. So you could see it with the girls. They were just so excited about being back, getting an opportunity to rebuild and build those relationships, because that's something that we were able to really hone in on a lot. And with these Zooms with the players, is we did a lot of our cultural stuff that we could improve on, certain expectations, our norms, and even programs of, what kind of legacy did the players want to leave here, beyond the soccer field. Sure. So, we were able to accomplish a lot. And that's the thing I think that's great about being in the coaching world, is we share a lot of ideas. And you have to constantly be able to be creative on the drop of a dime to move into something else that's going to keep, our student athletes, connected. I think that was something that we really had to shift. We even put a program in place where, where we would have weekly check-ins, where it was, academic evaluation sheets or certain little assignments that we would do through leadership, and give them deadlines, so if it was at school, we have certain checks and balances of being on time. And we made a positive at it, where we broke the team into 4 groups, and each team, when they would have perfect attendance, or everybody would be on time, even if you were on time and you were the last one on the call, your team kind of got a little point taken back from that. So really just trying to encourage these great behaviors in their day-to-day life. And every morning at 8 a.m., from Monday through Thursday, we would put together these workshops. And the great thing is the girls really asked for it. They wanted to create the same structure because they know that they can achieve so many greater things when we're holding them accountable, and they know that, well, coaches are going to be on the call. I better make sure that I'm, on this workshop at such and such time. So we tried to keep a lot of our checks and balances that have always been such a great way of our program. And it's really helped the young ladies, because now we'll have players showing up after they've already worked out. They've been up at 6 a.m., worked out already, came into the Zoom meeting, and now, you're looking at a really promising day then. All the harder things you've just done have been out of the way, and now you can focus on your schoolwork and, have a productive day. And I think that was something I really was proud of the girls for, is they were really on point. And again, our leaders were tremendous in this process.
And it's sort of as a follow-up, Paul, I was with a couple of the girls at workouts yesterday, and they were talking about the program that you guys kind of have in place, where each week they're assigned a different partner on the team to get to know them and who they are as a person and as an individual. Talk about kind of your thought process behind that and what that program, for lack of a better term, kind of leads to developing that team chemistry.
Well, I think it starts with us, with the recruitment of high character individuals, which we have high integrity. These kids are just model citizens. When you press on someone that has that as a backbone, they're always going to give more, and I think that's from us to the leaders all the way down through the team. And now we can open up some opportunities to have some tougher conversations with one another. But the stronger the relationships are at first, then everything else kind of just falls into place, because we talk even in through these even the social justice issues, that's really given us an opportunity to kind of put a lot of our differences out there, and have some mutual understanding of, can I see through someone else's eyes if I come from this type of society? I grew up in this, and that's one of the reasons that we want to have some international kids. We have a lot of diversity within our team, and it's not just a cultural diversity; it's a diversity of their thoughts and behaviors. And I think that when you bring a bunch of those type of different personalities, you're going to have some issues. You're going to have conflict. And that's why we felt that this program was so important, because later down the road, when these things occur, when they're on the field and they're all ultra competitive, they don't like losing, and there might be some harsh words or, a harsh tackle or whatever that's going to be, and it's not personal, right? That it's left on the field. We can walk off the field and be back to our own personality that we live by. And that all starts with the relationships, something that we've really invested in, even when we're recruiting. If players just about themselves, and relationships really aren't that important, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a relationship with us as coaches, because their peer group is basically the main mechanism of their influence. And they're the ones that are going to make a huge difference. We're going to ask of things and set expectations, but if their peers aren't buying into what our expectations are, then, they're not going to live up to them. And that's been the strength of our unit for many, many years, is the internal culture that we have. There is high demand, and if excellent isn't your best, then, we're going to get on you. You're going to understand that, that's not acceptable of just showing up. It's not acceptable of bringing 90% of what you're capable of. So, and that all stems from, you can have those kind of conversations when the relationship has a real strong substance, a real backbone of purpose. So then they become invested in one another, and they want each other to succeed, and we know in this world, when you give, you feel actually better than when you receive.
Sure.
When you're given the gifts of, helping somebody or encouraging them to overcome some obstacles, or when they ask for help and you're there, that's big, and that's how it all starts, with those little, kind of intimate conversations. And we try to really educate them on, texting isn't always the greatest way if we're having issues, and that's what's great about this Zoom is, even when we're doing recruiting calls or one-on-one meetings with our players, these are a great way, because we're talking to them about, you never would have ever thought that we'd have to worry about Zoom etiquette.
Right.
We got, opportunities to even educate our kids beyond that. So, we're not slouching, laying down, or, not having your video on, doing some other assignment or whatever. We want them to be engaged. We want them to give what they're capable of giving, and that's why we try to keep it a different variety. We did a virtual scavenger hunt with the girls. We did trivia night. That was, mix of a lot of random stuff to LaSalle soccer history, to LaSalle history, so it was a lot of fun for them. And we kind of had them run with it, because sometimes when we're there, some of them can't necessarily always be themselves. So I think it's important for their relationships to grow by feeling comfortable in that environment. That's where it all starts.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's clear what you're doing is working. I mean, they were still sitting there talking and bragging about beating their teammates in trivia the other night when I was talking to them at practice yesterday. So clearly it's working, and the results have shown on the field for you guys. And you talked about high character individuals and the recruiting process, kind of swinging things to the impressive class of 7 young ladies that you brought in this fall. What is your hope for them to bring to the program?
Well, we went through some tough times last year with everything. And, sometimes those tougher moments, those adverse moments, realize that you have to kind of fine tune what you are and what you're about, and how we're going to do things. And, by doing the research on the individuals, and, we have a personality profile that we get in place to figure out, are they a real good fit for LaSalle? Are they a real good fit for our program? Because there are some characteristics that doesn't quite mesh
Sure.
with, the DNA of our players. And for these 7 young ladies, it's been awesome. We just got done some individual meetings this last week with them, and, they're wired like some of our great leaders that we have, that their attention to detail, making sure that, they have to be responsible for, the little small things that make the biggest difference for us. They're going to be high achievers, because all of them have had great success in every aspect, whether it was getting to a national pool level, or, state players of the year, or winning national championships. Each of them have really been successful. So, one of the things we talk with them about, and this is where that high character comes in, is, they have to be prepared to embrace sometimes the down moments, the failures, because it won't always be easy every day here. We just had a discussion earlier this morning on, what's the LaSalle edge, what the mentality that we have, the grit, the resilience, that's been part of our program for many, many years. And then these young ladies go out and be these, tremendous professionals in whatever they're doing. So it all starts with, the little things that we're trying to do from a recruitment process. So we try to be as transparent of what we would expect from them when they get here, so there's no surprises. And I think that as you grow and again, like you said, this is my 18th or 19th year, and I still have to keep learning. I still have to keep getting better, and from the personality and society now, we're dealing with a different type of student athlete, that thinks a little bit different. They need certain ways to, handle their, kind of mental, emotional, even physical states. So we have to kind of adjust and maneuver so we can keep doing what we do well and get the most out of them, so, but it's a super talented class, and I think the meetings that we're having, when you have a young freshman say, that it's been so great that how well they've been received from the upperclassmen and how they go out of their way to help them with, setting up classes, or even we have one sophomore that has a text chain with them just to make sure that, hey, here's a meeting coming up, we're calling them 5 minutes before the meeting. Where are you? Get on, so, and that's what's great is when you have a culture that they're going to look out for each other behind the scenes, then there's a lot of stuff that we will never even have to manage, and then when they're in that leadership role, they're going to do the same thing. Sure. Because the model from the top down has been incredibly consistent and well run and well organized that way. That's why they're going to have a great experience, because that's what we want. It's going to be a hard experience, but we want it to be a great experience.
Yeah, I mean, the girls yesterday were really impressed with this group of freshmen who are asking questions, not afraid to ask the difficult questions, and make sure that they're doing everything they can to get prepared for, what lies ahead for them at LaSalle. And, talking about what lies ahead, transitioning here to this spring and what it's going to look like, how different do you think it'll be for you guys than a traditional fall schedule or a traditional fall season? What challenges are you anticipating for playing your sport during the spring instead of the fall?
Yeah, no, it'll be a real challenge, because I think one of the things that has always separated our program is, our spring season is about as regimented and as difficult as probably any in the country, that whether it's from our strength program, to our input in them improving as people, as well as, the fitness structure, because we want to be able to control what we're capable of controlling. Sometimes you can't always control how great of a player you are if you're going to play against, some top national team player. But you can always control that ability to outwork your opponent, outthink them in a lot of aspects. So that's where a lot of our, I think, elevation, that's why a lot of sophomores come in and do so well, because they've had such a difficult journey that, they probably didn't even, if you would have told them what we were going to do over the course of the spring, they would have been like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that. And that's one of those big moments in their life where they really learn a lot about themselves, that they can overcome these things. So that's the only negative I think that we're missing with us transitioning is it would have been awesome in an ideal world if we didn't have this fall season, to be on campus so we could really teach our younger players how to work, how these strength programs were so vital in their improvements as an athlete and even as an individual from a mental aspect. But, the great thing for them is they're all so hungry off the field. They're out working out, they're all doing their thing. So I don't think we're going to miss much of a beat at all, and we gave them a little motivation. I think there's only, a very small handful of A-10 teams that are in the situation that we're in. They've been on campus being able to work out. Even the schools that are, more Southern than us, they've been basically full-time training. So they're in comparison to us have a huge advantage over us. But I think that's where us building the chemistry and the cohesion as a team is going to be our 12th man on the field when we get into the spring season. And I know, with the transition period of getting ready for preseason, our girls are going to come in and just be, really encouraged by the opportunity that they have. And, when you have a full team of talent, it's going to get competitive. And that's what brings out a lot of great qualities. It elevates, the really talented player to be elite. It really elevates the, very good player to become almost great. So that's something that I think is really going to help us in this environment when we do get back to full time, is we have a lot of depth. There's no probably any lineup that we could put together right now that is anywhere near concrete for next year. So I think that's something that's really going to be a lot of fun to work with. I've always said I would rather have, bigger problems of, dealing with people being a little unhappy about playing time or how many minutes they're getting, than not having enough people to go in and help us affect, the level of training to, our game production.
It's definitely going to be an exciting spring, and I'll be excited to be there along the way, working with you guys and seeing how things turn out. I said we'd talk academics a little bit, and before we get into some fun, your squad just earned its 18th straight team academic award from your respective coaches association. And you mentioned recruiting high character players. I'm sure that plays a role in this, but what has the messaging from you and your coaching staff been to these teams over the last 18 years for you guys to pull in these team academic awards?
Well, I think it all starts with our staff, right? So, I've been blessed to have one of our former players be one of our assistant coaches, from Amy to Allie, to Melissa, all the way up to Larissa and now Courtney. When they've been through the kind of ring at LaSalle, they know what's expected. They know how to handle the ups and downs of, college life. So as a role model, they've been excellent, and then our academic support with Christine and Kate, you won't find a better probably staff than in the country than them. And I think that's where, the structure set that, you have to be really special, and you don't have to be incredibly intelligent to succeed at LaSalle, right? You have to bring something that you're going to achieve, and you're going to overcome obstacles if that's the case. Maybe it's you're going to have to study more, or you're going to have to get extra tutors. So we really encourage that and even demand it, even if it has to have them miss practice or not be a part of a road trip because they need to focus on that stuff. So it's always been, we've really tried to keep a lot of checks and balances on the details of, study hall hours. I remember we had a kid that was, 4 hours of study hall and she checked out at like 3:58, and, there's a team consequence that we had because of that, so they know that they have to live up to higher expectations all the time, that, everybody will coast and get away with certain things. We try not to have them think that way. We don't want them taking shortcuts. We want them, like we said today in this meeting, in the mentality, we want them doing the hardest things possible better than anybody. Where the norm in society is you want to do easy things really well, and everybody can do that. So we want them to, go the extra mile to achieve, and they're constantly outperforming. We have a kid has a 4.0. He's both semesters, and she's super fit, and she's going to be possible All-American for us someday. That's the kind of mentality that she has, and that's contagious. Just like they're competitive on the field. You were talking about with the trivia and stuff. They're competitive in the school, in the classroom. If someone's not pulling their weight, they're going to tell them, "Hey, what do you need? You got to do extra work. Let's go to the library or whatever." So they set high standards for themselves, and then we just kind of, pull the strings a little bit and make sure that they're staying in line with a lot of that stuff.
It's the messaging and the recruiting is working for you on both levels. That's clear. 18 straight team academic awards from your coaches association. That's a big accomplishment, and kudos to you and your staff for, having the right kids in place to make sure that those type of things get done. And we introduced this piece last time with Brian when we wrap things up with him. It's our Fast Five. I'm going to throw 5 questions at you. You can give me quick responses to add a little fun to the end of our segments here. So first and foremost, we've been in quarantine for 7 months or whatever. What was your go-to quarantine show?
I would think Narcos in the very beginning, but now my wife and I are into this Utopia. So, We over the summer, it was a lot easier to binge watch. Now it's so difficult to even get a whole show in, with the schedule that we have. So, but yeah, that's what I think Narcos was the go-to.
If you could only have a couple items with you and you were forced to go into quarantine again, what would your must-have items be?
I did a lot of yard work. I did a lot of projects. Played quite a bit of cornhole. I did a lot of trading, stocks. So I think probably watching CNBC.
All right. If you could go back to your time as a high school soccer player or high school athlete, I should say, and be offered a full scholarship for any sport other than soccer, what sport would it be and why?
That's a good one. I think it probably would have been football, because being a goalkeeper, I could have seen myself be a wide receiver. I think that would have been, although nowadays probably not, because you never know what's going to happen with your brain.
Yeah. Who is your all-time favorite athlete and why?
I would say, I think it's two of them. I really admire the path that Messi's taken, from, having a lot of things against him to just becoming the greatest player in the world. And then I got a huge kind of love and appreciation for Michael Jordan. And to be honest, in college, in the early 90s, we hated Michael Jordan because of being the Sixers and all that stuff. And and after watching The Last Dance, it was, he has a lot of traits that we want to have in our individuals, where they're constantly in search for excellence, and the people around them have to be in search for that same excellence. And there was no question of why he became the greatest, right? Because it wasn't just his ability, it was the whole package. He gave up a lot of maybe his life. And you saw, even as a leader, he gave up a lot of relationships as a leader, because I wouldn't imagine a lot of players really enjoyed being on his team all the time. But when everything was said and done, they respected him for that path. And that was what was awesome. And then hearing even all the story about Kobe now, you realize what kind of different level that guy was, and God bless his family and all. It's heartbreaking to see something like that happen. But, to have that kind of legacy that you're leaving, that's what a lot of our athletes, even beyond the sport field and their profession, that's the kind of impact they should be looking to make on people.
I think legacy is a good word to use to describe all three of those individuals. A real simple one to finish us off. Our school colors are blue and gold. You got to pick one. Which one are you taking?
Gold.
Gold. I'm with you. I'm a gold guy myself.
Coach, gold standard. So we're going with that one.
Coach, we appreciate you giving us some time here on Inside the L, the podcast.
Awesome stuff. Yeah. Thanks again for having us. Yep.
All right. That's Paul Royal, head coach of a women's soccer program here at LaSalle University. He's getting ready to start up his 19th season at the helm at 20th and Olney. Coming up next, we're going to talk with Katie Rhodes Abbott, head women's lacrosse coach. She's going into her third season. A lot of crazy stuff happening with them in the middle of the season, getting, the season pulled away from them because of the pandemic. We'll talk to her and we'll talk about some of the things going on in her program. I'm Ed LeFurge. We will be right back. We're joined now by the head coach of the LaSalle women's lacrosse team, Coach Katie Rhodes Abbott. She's entering her third season here at the helm of the lacrosse program. Coach, thanks so much for giving us some time.
Yeah, of course. Happy to be here.
So, let's let's take a look at it. Well, first, before we jump into things, how are you? How's your family? You guys doing okay?
Yeah, we're good. It's just my husband and our two dogs. So we're doing pretty well. My husband's currently working from home. So we've gotten to spend a lot of time together over quarantine.
Sure.
But it's nice that I'm able to get a little bit back at work. He gets some peace and quiet, and the dogs get to nap basically all day. So good for them.
Yeah. So let's take a look back to it. Let's go back to March. The A10 canceled the season on March 12th. You guys were 3-4 through 7 games at that point. You last played March 7th, so 5 days before your season kind of got taken away from you. It was an 18-6 win over LIU. You guys were set to host Drexel 2 days after that announcement. So I imagine for you, you guys were game planning and practicing and implementing, what you were looking to do against the Dragons there. Walk me through kind of what that week looked like for you guys.
Yeah, it was strange to say the least. I mean, we were, lucky recruiting wise. We got back from LIU, awesome game on a high. The next Sunday we hosted a clinic. So that was huge for us because obviously we didn't get to recruit all summer, other than film. So we actually had like a bunch of like 22s on that happened to just be on campus that day. So we were like, great. Like looking back, like, I don't know how like we even like we're able to get through that Sunday without like, just sort of like without any sort of hiccup at all. And then come Monday, there was definitely like a lot of rumblings of everything happening. And then, it was just like very eerie and weird, like just hearing everybody else like, okay, things are going. And then, my husband working over at Penn, he is in the Ivy League. That was like one of the first things to go. So we were all kind of sitting here waiting, and then just going every day, moving that next step, like, okay, we're still in this, we can still go. And then obviously when March 12th hit, I had been talking a lot with Jill over at Drexel, and, we're both like, what's going to happen? Not really sure. And then obviously they were like, okay, it's time to go. We were on the field at practice. So I was still like trying to keep everything as normal as possible, even though I think everybody kind of saw the writing on the wall. Right. So we were at practice, and then my then sports supervisor had called me, and I got the phone. The girls all knew I'd never answer the phone at practice. Ever do I take my phone out at practice, right, unless I'm timing something. So it's always a bad thing, either a phone call or I'm timing somebody running, and that's never what they want. So it was a tough conversation. I think we all kind of saw it was going to happen, but it didn't make it any easier. For like our senior class, I think that was, tough for them and just everybody in general. I think we were just starting to hit our stride. We were just getting into like a groove, and it was just, we were all like so excited to play Drexel. They had a really great start to their season, and I think it would have been a really, really good game. So looking forward to hopefully, fingers crossed, getting that back again this year. But it was crazy. And like I said, we tried to make it as normal as possible, and then, get through it, day by day. Every day was like, just trying to get through and make it as, as normal as we could. But, it's a tough news to hear, coming from.
Yeah. What was the sentiment of the team? Like, you mentioned it was a difficult conversation to have. And obviously I think any student athlete, and I'm sure you and your staff were all crushed and devastated by it, because this is unprecedented. This is the first time something like this has ever happened. So what was that conversation like? Were you blunt and open and honest? Did you try and sugarcoat it a little bit? Did you, were we talking big picture here?
Yeah, so it was tough. I think we're all pretty emotional. I think I'm very open as a coach. Like I am an emotional coach. Like we put everything, into our program, and I think I expect my kids to do the same, and they do the same. So it's like, it was tough to not be emotional during that. But at the same time, it was so like, I think everybody's still kind of in shock a little bit, like, oh, there's still a chance we could still play. I tried to like stay as honest with the information I had. Like, as we all know, we get like every day you're getting new information on what to do and what's going to happen next. So it's like, okay, and then I'll let you guys know we could potentially be back, we could not, like we have to be prepared for both things. Because at that point, I think the first thing was like a 2-week, or some people doing like 2-week
classes we're going to take a prolonged spring break, or we can come back. What is it going to look like?
Right. So it was like all very up in the air still. So, I gave them the exact information that I got. I try to like stay as honest with my team as possible. As always, I try my best not to sugarcoat things, just because it just makes more work for you down the road. But for us, I think we were just kind of it was a really sad conversation that we had, but we're all just kind of like, well, what do we do now? Like it was weird. It was very surreal. Like thinking back, like I can't even, it feels like years ago that conversation happened. It feels like so long ago, but it was a really surreal feeling, because we were just like, none of us even really knew what to feel, because it was just something that like, I don't know, hopefully we never have to encounter ever again, but it was something we've never even, ever had to deal with before.
Yeah. I mean, it was so back and forth, and we didn't know, like nobody knew what to expect next. Nobody, I mean, every day you woke up knowing, all right, what's going to happen today? Like it really was all over the place. And, I imagine for probably close to 7 months, you didn't physically see your team. Like how did you handle that adjustment, and what were some of the ways you tried to normalize, for lack of a better term, your interactions with it as best you could?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I think that it was like trying to find the balance between like checking in on text messages, phone calls, and Zooms, and not like doing too much and overloading them, because we would have normally been with them every day. So I didn't want to just do that virtually. I think, the girls had to do it all for class. It was tough to try to find the balance. I think that was probably the hardest thing, was finding the balance of like where that, like how, like between like not communicating and then like overloading them with communication, I think was more my fear, because they already were getting like thrown into this virtual learning that they've never, encountered before. And everything else, like they're in quarantine, like the stresses of like just being at home with their parents, all their siblings. I've got, 2 players who have 5 siblings. Like, so there's a lot of other things other than just like getting a long-term vacation. I feel like that some people kind of maybe saw it as from the outside, but like it was, I think, just trying to find the balance so I didn't like stress them out, but also still like trying to keep the contact in place so that like, we're still continuing to work towards something.
And so I imagine like previous summers, for you guys with your team, it's you communicate. How did this summer, with everything being so different, and how did that communication differ, right? Like we talk about people being home, we talk about mental health being an important part of it, and wanting to check in, but not be too overbearing. So how did that compare to, previous summers?
I tried to, once like school was over, I tried to keep it as more normal as it would be in a summer. Like normally the 3 of us are so busy recruiting that like we are usually seeing our girls that are out coaching is who we'll run into and see. Sure. But a lot of it's just like me hounding them for paperwork and checking in with phone calls and texts. Yeah. Is usually how it works. So I tried to keep it as normal as I could, because like thinking about like potentially being virtual this fall, like they were already doing so much like on their computers, and then some of them were, getting into work. So I try not to bog them down too much in the summer anyway. I like to give them a little time to themselves away from me, because and like our staff, and it's always good. Like I always give them like, the rest of May and June to sort of put their sticks down and like take a breath and step back, so that it makes them like, miss things again. So I think that that's always what we try to do. So I tried to keep it as normal as possible. We didn't do too many mandatory things like or not mandatory, but voluntary things over Zoom, like, or anything like that. It was very much like as normal for them as I could try to make it.
With the NCAA granting an additional year of eligibility for spring student athletes, you have 5 coming back to utilize that extra year, if I counted correctly. How excited are you to hopefully send those young ladies off with a proper senior season compared to the craziness that was this past year?
Yeah, I'm really excited. I think that that class really deserves it. And I'm really glad that we were able to offer that to them. They've been instrumental the past 2 years, just seeing them grow and mature. I think this class has a lot to offer just leadership wise, and just having, these girls back with their maturity too, I think is huge. They all have pretty level heads when it comes to sort of leading the team, and they all have the team's best interest at heart. So I think, just being able to have them here when we're really going to need a lot of leadership with, 12 newcomers coming in, 11 freshmen, and we have a transfer coming in with like not even being here in the fall. So we're going to need all hands on deck when we get back in the spring. I'm just so happy to have them. We had, 6 in that class. Kylie's off, teaching the youth of America. So we're really happy for her. We're going to miss her, but we were lucky to get 5 of them to be able to come back.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned those newcomers. We'll get to them in just a second. Once October rolled around, though, you've been able to get back on campus with some of your student athletes to begin off-season workouts. How has that gone? What was that process like? Getting tested before coming to campus, and how many kids are in each of your pods, and what does that whole situation kind of look like for you guys?
Yeah, great question. I mean, we're so happy just to be able to be out with our players. Like, I think that's what we do. I think as coaches, it's probably been the hardest part is, I mean, we can communicate and talk with our players all day and our student athletes, but like, we miss that face-to-face time. Like, that's what we're here for. That's what, like, we, are successful with, and that's like getting out in the field and being with our players. So it's been so nice. It's, our pods are small, so we have 2 pods now that are going. There'll be, 5 groups each. We've had a couple like coming back kind of week to week, but we're going to finishing our 2nd week now with some conditioning, some of them getting back into it. Shaking the rust off of our sticks has been great, but it's so great to be out there, and I think that that's probably the biggest thing, and just like really understanding we're so lucky to be able to be doing what we're doing. Not every team is able to get out on the field. So I think just appreciating each and every little thing that's coming our way is something that we're trying to do, and trying to like keep that in perspective, because not everybody's able to get out with their team. And it's tough. I feel very lucky that we're able to do that.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's been huge. I've been around some of the teams working out, and you can tell a lot of the student athletes are just relieved, and it's a hint of positivity in their lives right now because of, all the craziness that has gone on the last 7 months. So it's really good to see everybody back. You mentioned your 12 young ladies coming into the program. How are you expecting them to kind of impact your program this upcoming spring?
Yeah, so I'm really excited. So this is my first recruiting class coming in that myself and my staff have had a hand in recruiting. So we're really excited. We have 11 freshmen. And then like I said, we have our transfer, Kiki from Ohio State. So we're really excited. I think they all bring so much to the table, in their different positions, but also just as personalities. I think they're just such great fits with our current group. So I'm really excited to have them come in. Like, I couldn't tell you where I see them on the field right now, because they obviously missed out on the fall. But I'm so pumped. I think that's, I think probably the hardest part about this is about, fall and not being, in person as much as we would like is, not like being able to sort of groom that freshman class for the spring. Right. But like I said, we'll roll with the punches and we'll get there. And that's going to be, we're going to have to work a little bit harder in the spring to get them in and prepared and, kind of get them through, the run of the mill stuff that we kind of go through, their day-to-day stuff. So, sure. We'll be doing that, but I'm really excited. Like, I can't wait to get them here and to get them mixed in with our returners, and just to see them out on the field and see how they, kind of complement our returners and also push our returners a little bit too. So we've got a lot of talent in that class. I'm really excited.
We have an Inside the L coming out next week about how some of our freshmen have transitioned to college in this virtual period, but how have your kids transitioned? You've got 11 freshmen, you've got the one transfer. That's got to be a difficult process to come to a new school, certainly for the 11 freshmen making the jump to the collegiate level, but even for a transfer student to be coming to a new school, doing this completely virtually. How has that transition process been for them?
Yeah, honestly, I think, it's been better than it would have been had they not had their, those last couple months virtually for their high schools. I think that sort of helped prepare them for, being on here at LaSalle. So I've, they're a group that I check in with, pretty consistently, hey, how's school? How are things going? Kate in academic services is phenomenal. She's been really instrumental in just keeping them on task and on target, academically. So I think that we, luckily we are very lucky that we have such great support here at LaSalle to be able to, assist with this whole entire process with them. Cause obviously, they're basically coming in blind, not the freshman year that they were expecting, nor that any of us were expecting. But I think that they're adjusting pretty well, considering all things considered. So, I'm looking forward again. I just can't wait to get them here in person and, get them a little bit more of a college experience to go along with it.
Well, kudos to you and your staff and all of the support staff that we have to help our student athletes transitioning to the university and this virtual experience. We're going to jump into some fun stuff here. It's our Fast Five. We do with all of our guests, rapid fire type questions here. Last 7 months we've been in quarantine. What has been your go-to quarantine show?
So I am embarrassed to admit how many shows I've watched over quarantine. But I would say I've been doing a lot of rewatching of some of my favorite shows that have been on TV, sitcoms, things like that. Currently I'm rewatching Scrubs again. I'm a big Scrubs fan, huge Office fan. I watched that early on in quarantine. My husband doesn't always appreciate my choice in shows, but I've been into Scrubs lately. But anything new that pops up, we're watching the different streaming services. Thank goodness for all of those the past couple of months, right? Because we've been able to watch so many different things. But I'm embarrassed to even admit the amount of shows that I've watched.
I think so many people would agree with you on how great these streaming platforms have been. Probably the best couple bucks everybody spends each month.
Oh my gosh, you are not kidding at all. Yeah, there's some good ones that kept us entertained the evenings here in quarantine.
Yeah, no doubt. What are your must-have quarantine items? If you were to have to go into quarantine again, what are the items that you want to make sure you have with you?
Well, obviously my TV. No, I think also this isn't really a thing, but it was so great. Any of the nice days that we had because you're able to go outside. So nice weather would be huge. We can walk the dogs. They were, enjoying the time, but they were also, they're very energetic. So getting them outside and getting them exercise is a must. here in our, very small apartment in the city. But yeah, I mean, obviously TV, my computer, like we've been connected to emails. It's probably like the hardest thing, like you're always connected to everything.
Yeah.
I've been on my phone way too much technology, but probably those things. Books, I've been reading more too. That's been huge. So I don't just watch TV. I do read sometimes.
If you could go back to junior year of high school and be offered a full scholarship for any sport other than lacrosse, what sport would it be and why?
It would have to be soccer, only because that was probably the only other sport that I really played seriously. I don't think any other sport would want me or even come close to offering me a full scholarship at all. So it would probably be soccer, even though I'm pretty sure Paul wouldn't want anything to do with me either.
We'll have to get you out of practice and see if you still got it.
Yeah, for sure.
Who is your all-time favorite athlete and why?
So this is such a good question. I have so many. I think there's so many great, like, just female athlete role models out there. Serena Williams is probably like one of my all-time favorites. Like thinking back, like of the ones I always are watching. Like she's just such a competitor and such a great role model for just young women everywhere. I think, so in terms of overall, obviously my favorite lacrosse player is Kayla Trainer ever. But so I have like a lot of different female athletes. Those are probably my favorite.
School colors are blue and gold. If you got to pick one, you going blue or you going gold?
Oh, so Ed, this is a tough one. So I'm sure a lot of coaches have this, but like we do our blue and gold competition within our team.
Okay.
And if I were to pick a blue or gold, I think it would get back to them for sure. And then I would have to be answering to the other team. So I have to sit this one out. I can't tell you how competitive our blue and gold competitions get. It gets a little feisty out on the field. So I think I'm usually the ref, so I have to be unbiased. And if I show any sort of loyalty toward one side, they're coming after me. I can guarantee it.
That's fair. I'll let you slide on that one. I selfishly, excuse me, I hope it would get back to your team. I hope they are tuning in and listening to us. But Coach, thanks so much for giving us some time here. We really appreciate it.
No, this is awesome, Ed. Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
That's head coach Katie Rhodes Abbott, women's lacrosse coach here at LaSalle University. Next up, we are going to move into our alumni spotlight with Rob Mcintosh, former LaSalle football player, 03 alum, and he has been working at LaSalle the last 18 years in campus recreation. Stay tuned. We'll be back in just a second. Well, welcome back to Inside the L, the podcast. Joining me now for our Alumni Spotlight, Mr. Rob Mcintosh. Rob has been at LaSalle for a very, very long time. He graduated as a football student athlete in 2003, and he spent the last 18 years working in athletics and recreation, and he currently serves as the director of campus recreation. Rob, thanks so much for joining us. How are you, and how's the family doing?
I'm doing great. Family as well. I have 2 daughters who are in college, and then my wife and I have 3 younger ones. So we're just working on getting them ready for school.
Virtual schooling, I'm sure, hybrid type model, something like that.
Yes, definitely.
So you were tasked in your role as the director of campus recreation with handling the reopening process of some of our recreation facilities. The IBC Fitness Center has been open since early September. Wetzlar Track has been open for nearly a month at this point. How did that process go for you, and kind of what were some of the things that you guys took into consideration?
So the process really began was when we started was who's going to be on campus is how we looked at it. And when we heard there was going to be several students on campus, we decided to take it step by step. So we had the gym rearranged, clean, signs posted, a program, IM Leagues downloaded, where the students can reserve their time to come in. So really it was just a process of one at a time. So we got the gym ready, had the gym open. And then as the gym got open, I was able to acquire some student workers. And I looked and said, all right, we have the gym is now a working system on its own. So I can either be here or not be here, but we have the student workers, which can are great people, by the way, who can, control the gym with the check-ins, cleaning, racking the weights, and making sure that the students are following and being compliant. So then after we got that under control, now we look to see what else can we offer students, what else can we offer staff and faculty. So we're like, next was the track. So we picked 3 days and we set it up to whereas we'll have somebody there for the track where you can come in, sign in, and get some work and have fun there on the track. And then after that, we decided, all right, we have the gym under control, we have the track open, and now we're going to go back to start offering Explore Fitness, which is our fitness classes right now is yoga, which has been well received, and virtual boot camp, which we had one person sign up every day, and they get on and they love it. And so, it's just more like people just have to get to know that it's out there. And then we have tire fitness that we do in front of the IBC Fitness Center. Our tires range from 75 pounds to 500 pounds.
Wow. You guys certainly have a lot going on. What are some of the safety protocols that were put in place to ensure a positive and safe experience for our patrons?
So first thing, when you come down here, your temperature's checked. We take a couple survey questions on how your body feeling, and then after that, we, the kids are allowed to work out. But down here with the gym, we have soap and water ready for them. We have hand sanitizers down here. There are gym wipes down here. We ordered a bunch of gym wipes, and the gym wipes are really what we use down here for the students to wipe down before they work out and wipe down after they work out. And then we come back, we have a stronger cleaning solution that we spray on there to keep the machines and pads clean. And with the reservation system, we reserve it. So you only have a certain amount in here. So not all the machines are being touched. Only certain ones are being touched, and then we clean them. And then the next line of registered machines are being used. So we have that system where it's like half is used, half is not. So it's not, and then students are not on top of each other.
So talk to us about the reservation process that you guys have through IM Leagues. What does that look like? How does somebody go in and make their reservation if they want to come in and work out?
So for that, you'll go to imleagues.com. You're down, imleagues.com. You're going to go on. You are going to register, which means you put in your Salle email address. You click on LaSalle, you log in, and then there's going to give you a sheet where you have to fill out information. So they're going to ask for your name, age, year in school, student ID number, email address. You put all that in. Once you have all that completed, you're going to get an email sent from IM Leagues, which is going to confirm your email. And once you do that, you are now able to log in. So once you log in, you'll go in there, and we have intramurals and fitness set up. And right now we're just working on the fitness part. So that's what stands out. So you go to fitness, you select class, and then you'll go down to class and you'll have different options to select from. So if you want to go to the gym right now, it's this IBC Fitness Center and then IBC Cardio Loft. And that's how we started it. That's what we've been working on since then. And then after that, now if you want to just register for any other classes, the same thing, you'll log in through IM Leagues, go over to fitness, and then select classes again, and then you scroll down, and we have several different classes set up that students can pick from and reserve. And each reservation is an hour.
And I imagine, we have a limit as to how many people can be in the gym at a time. They're, they have to remain socially distanced and whatnot.
Yes. So in the gym, when you reserve, each hour you're allowed 6 people on the floor, which is using our fitness machines, weights, dumbbells. And then for the cardio part, you're allowed 5. And we have 4 treadmills, 4 ellipticals, 2 seated bikes, and 1 recumbent bike. And you can reserve those times there, and each reservation is an hour.
And campus-wide policy is we have to wear masks at all time. That's strictly enforced in the gym as well, I assume?
Yes, it's enforced. You're not we haven't let people in the gym if they didn't have a mask. And there have been times where some people have forgotten, but we have extra ones because we don't want to deny anybody a workout. So we do have extra masks in there for when students come in. And if we walk around and we see a student has it like not completely over its mouth and nose, we do kindly ask them to make sure they cover their nose. And most students have been compliant with it. A lot of them, their masks have just been too big. So I went up and gave them one of ours to see if that would help them too. So just always about like working out and trying to make sure that everybody gets the workout, but they're working out properly and they're working out safely.
Yeah, definitely great that we have this opportunity for, students and staff alike to get in there, be able to work out, stay in shape, but do it at a safe and respectable way. And let's transition a little bit to your time at LaSalle as a student. You played football here. What were some of your favorite memories, and what was your experience like as a student and a student athlete?
So when I came to LaSalle, I came in a 205-pound running back. I came in, we had Coach Man Love. It was second year. Everybody who was here was excited. A lot of football players came from other schools. So we had like people who were coming from like D2 schools, people who were coming from a junior college, people who were coming from Albright up where I'm originally from in Reading. Right. And just looking, it was an experiment. And it was just, for me, it was like a exciting moment in my life. It's like, oh, I'm doing something big. I'm not in high school anymore. Now I'm the little fish in the big pond. So let's see what I can do from there. And freshman year was a bit of a learning experience, because I thought being in high school, you're the big fish in the pond. But when you come here, it's an eye-opening experience. I had a play where I was myself and our linebacker, and I'm like, oh, I'm just going to run him over. And it was like a stalemate. And I went back and I was like, I've never gone back. So literally that next week I was in the weight room. I told the strength coach, we're going to have to do this big. Like I had to get bigger, had to get stronger. And that was my focus. And that was the first game of the year. And then as the season went on, I felt that working with the strength coach and talking to my coaches, I was getting better and better and more acclimated with the running back position. And then sophomore year, I decided I didn't want to run anymore. I wanted to hit people. So I transferred over to linebacker. And since then, it was like a fun experience. I mean, we played teams that were, monster linemen. But to me, I was excited about it. I was like, all right, I get to go up somebody bigger. Let's see what this workout I've been doing is going to help me. And playing linebacker was just fun. It was like free range, go at it, have fun. If somebody got the ball, they go down. Which is, common, but I made sure that they felt that made my presence felt.
You're somebody who you were a student athlete here. You have a degree from here. You've now spent the entire portion of your professional career working at LaSalle. What does LaSalle mean to you?
LaSalle means it was important because they gave me my first opportunity to actually work in athletics recreation. And by that, I always felt that like I've always had something to give back. And me being able to help students along the way to learn, to grow, to challenge themselves was always important to me. And I felt that being at LaSalle gave me that perfect opportunity. And as a student, I had that, I've had those challenges given to me by professors, by my coaches, and even by athletic staff. And that's what made me excited about coming back and joining, was just being part of athletic staff and then being able to give back to the students.
What has it been like the last 18 years for you to work at your alma mater? And, how was the transition from being a student to a staff member?
So it's a funny story because I actually ran intramurals as a junior and senior. So I did intramural flag basketball, I did softball, and I did volleyball because during the fall I couldn't do football, but I actually ran that. And it was, it was fun because people looked up to me. They were like, oh, well, let's go talk to Rob. He can help out. And I always felt like, yeah, I was a problem solver, or I got stuff done. And I was always making sure that I was given to the students, even though I was a student myself.
Sure.
So, and then when I got the job, it was like, all right, now I get to do the same thing, but now I have bigger responsibilities. I have bigger roles. I have a bigger involvement. So I looked upon it as like, all right, well, how can I make every moment count? How can I make every interaction with a student important? Or let them know that, like, even though they are playing intramurals and recreation stuff that they're still important. They're not like, oh, you just play that. So no, I treated everybody as they were an athlete, and they seem to love that. And then over the past 18 years, I've just grown to know a lot of people. Some people in the departments have stayed, some have left. Students have come, students have gone. But I still keep in contact with some of the students from 2010. From 2008, we still talk, we still chat. I still have phone numbers in there for them. So I built relationships over the years, and that's pretty much what's kept me going, is that I'm able to build relationships with the students, and that they see me as a person who's willing to help them, and a person who's willing to give what I have to make sure that their experience at LaSalle is good.
Well, Rob, we really appreciate it. Thanks so much for giving us some time.
Oh, thank you for having me.
All right, that was Rob Mcintosh, Director of Campus Recreation, 2003 graduate of LaSalle University, former football student athlete here with the Explorers. We thank everybody for tuning in to episode 3. It's been great. We really enjoy being able to take you behind the scenes and give you a really an in-depth look of how we do things here at LaSalle University, and some of the things that have been going on with our procedures to getting our student athletes back, and our patrons in the recreation realm back as well. Be sure to go ahead and subscribe and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Spotify, and give us a subscription on YouTube. All you have to do is search LaSalle Athletics on all 3 platforms. I'm Ed LeFurge. It's been a blast. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to Inside the L, the podcast. Go Explorers!